In 2015, FC Barcelona didn't just win the Champions League, they owned Europe. On a warm night in Berlin, they defeated Juventus and completed a historic treble. La Liga, Copa del Rey, and the Champions League. At the heart of it all was a front three unlike anything football had ever seen. Lionel Messi, the genius. Luis Suarez, the warrior. Neymar, the magician. Together, they scored goals for fun. They humiliated defenders. They turned matches into spectacles. Behind them was a system refined over generations of philosophy built on control, intelligence, and beauty. Barcelona weren't just the best team in the world, they were the standard. But in football, dominance is fragile, because sometimes, the fall begins at the very moment you reach the top. After the celebrations of 2015 faded, Barcelona entered the 2015-16 season as overwhelming favorites. On paper, nothing had changed, but in reality, everything was beginning to. The midfield that once controlled the tempo of world football was slowly fading away. Xavi, the metronome, had already left. His ability to dictate rhythm, control pressure, and calm chaos was irreplaceable. Andres Iniesta, still brilliant, was no longer at his peak week in and week out, and Sergio Busquets, though still elite, no longer had the same support structure around him. Barcelona's identity had always relied on midfield dominance. Now, that foundation was weakening. Under Luis Enrique, the system evolved. It became faster, more vertical, more direct. And while it brought success, it also moved Barcelona away from the control-based philosophy that once made them untouchable. In Europe, the warning signs became clearer. Against Atletico Madrid in 2016, Barcelona struggled against intensity and defensive structure. They were knocked out not because they lacked talent, but because they lacked balance. By 2017, the cracks were no longer subtle. They were visible, and then came a moment that changed everything. In the summer of 2017, the football world stood still. Neymar, one of the brightest stars in the game, left Barcelona for Paris Saint-Germain. It wasn't just a transfer, it was a statement. A €222 million release clause triggered a world record deal, but the real damage wasn't financial, it was structural. Neymar wasn't just part of the team, he was part of the system. His movement, creativity, and unpredictability balanced Messi and Suarez perfectly. Without him, Barcelona lost width, flair, and tactical flexibility. The club reacted quickly, but not wisely. They spent massive amounts on replacements. Ousmane Dembele arrived as a raw, explosive talent. Philippe Coutinho came as a creative playmaker, but neither truly fit. Dembele struggled with injuries and inconsistency. Coutinho was played out of position, never fully integrating into the system. Barcelona weren't building anymore. They were patching holes. And in elite football, that's never sustainable. As seasons passed, Barcelona's tactical identity continued to drift. The intricate passing networks, the positional rotations, the suffocating control, they were slowly disappearing. In their place was something far simpler. Give the ball to Lionel Messi, and let him decide. And to be fair, Messi delivered. Season after season, he produced magic, goals from impossible angles, assists no one else could see. Performances that carried Barcelona through difficult matches, but this dependence came at a cost. The team stopped functioning as a collective. Instead of a system elevating individuals, individuals were compensating for a broken system. Under Ernesto Valverde, Barcelona prioritized stability. They controlled games but rarely dominated them like before. The pressing was less intense. The transitions were slower, the creativity became predictable, and in the Champions League, predictability is fatal. Opponents began to figure Barcelona out, cut off Messi, and the system collapses. If there's one chapter that defines this era, it's this one, because Barcelona didn't just lose in Europe, they collapsed. Against AS Roma, Barcelona were dominant in the first leg. A 4-1 victory, complete control. Fans were already thinking about the semifinals. But in Rome, everything unraveled. Roma pressed relentlessly. They attacked with belief. And Barcelona froze. A 3-0 defeat, eliminated on away goals. It wasn't just the loss, it was the manner of it. A team full of experience, completely overwhelmed. A year later, Barcelona had a chance to redeem themselves. Facing Liverpool FC, they produced a brilliant first-leg performance. 3-0. Messi at his absolute peak. Surely, this time it was over. But Anfield is not just a stadium, it's an experience. Without key players, Liverpool played with intensity, belief, and chaos. Barcelona couldn't cope. The infamous quick corner. The defensive lapses. The lack of leadership. 4-0. Another collapse. And this time, it felt psychological. Like something inside the team had broken. Then came the darkest night. Facing FC Bayern Munich, Barcelona were exposed at every level. Tactically, physically, mentally. 8-2. A scoreline that didn't just shock football. It defined an era. Former players scoring against them. Defensive chaos. No structure. No fight. It was no longer about losing. It was about identity being completely destroyed. While the team struggled on the pitch, the real crisis was unfolding behind the scenes. Under President Josep Maria Bartomeu, Barcelona's financial model became unsustainable. Huge transfer fees, massive wages, poor long-term planning. Players were signed without clear roles, contracts were inflated, and the wage bill spiraled out of control. The club was chasing short-term success at the expense of long-term stability. Eventually, the numbers caught up, debt increased, financial flexibility disappeared. Barcelona, a club known for its structure and identity, was now in chaos. And then came the moment that symbolized the collapse more than any defeat ever could. In 2021, football witnessed the unthinkable. Lionel Messi left FC Barcelona after more than 20 years. After becoming the greatest player in the club's history, after defining an entire era, he was gone. Not because he wanted to leave, but because the club simply couldn't afford to keep him under financial regulations. His move to Paris Saint-Germain marked the end of an identity, because Messi wasn't just a player, he was Barcelona. Without him, the club had to rediscover itself from scratch. Today, Barcelona are rebuilding, and this time, they're looking inward. Under Xavi, the club is reconnecting with its roots, focusing on youth, possession, and identity. Young stars are emerging. Pedri, intelligent, composed, creative. Gavi, aggressive, fearless, relentless. Lamine Yamal, a generational talent in the making. There is hope again, but rebuilding a club of Barcelona's stature is not easy. It requires patience, it requires stability, and most importantly, it requires time. Barcelona's last Champions League win in 2015 wasn't just success. It was perfection. A perfect squad, a perfect system, a perfect moment. Since then, they've experienced everything football can offer. Decline, collapse, chaos, reinvention. But history shows one thing. Great clubs always return. And Barcelona, they are still writing their next chapter. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Barcelona's journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And tell me in the comments, what was Barcelona's biggest mistake after 2015? And more importantly, when will they win the Champions League again?